Welcome to the Adventures of Adam. I'm Adam, let's adventure. Today we're going to be taking a look at the most recent Fateless video showcasing the changes that they're making to the game as they prepare to move into the alpha phase. Let's get into it.
Hey guys, this is Simon from Fateless. Right, today we're going to be looking at some of the UI, how people actually experience the game, and some of the refinements we're making right now to make the alpha gameplay feel really polished. A lot of this comes down to now playtesting from us, our internal teams, and feel. Does it feel good? Does it feel right? How do we make refinements so that the user experience improves with some of the changes we make to a UI? So firstly, what is a UI? Anytime you're in-game, your visual of where you will find different areas to interact with, that's kind of like your user engagement or your user interaction, right? UI. And the user experience is then how, I guess, how does it tell you there's prompts of different things that you need to do? So if we're looking right now in-game at our kind of like roster, there's certain changes that we're making in the upcoming visual elements. So let's start by taking a look at the roster screen. Now, there's another
Actually, something I wanted to point out. I've been wondering for a while if they were going to have an index in the game, because that's not something that we've seen showcased before. But it looks like there is a button right here in the UI for an index. And I'm assuming inventory is going to be a weapon collection. And the heroes is the heroes that we have. Cool. I was worried that we weren't going to have an index since we hadn't seen one yet, but it looks like there is. So, sorry. Tangent over.
So let's start by taking a look at the roster screen. Now, there's a number of things we want to change in this screen because it feels very busy. There's a lot of information in a hero collector, in a gotcha game, that we need to try and show and demonstrate. And certainly within GODFORGE, there's going to be a lot of depth to builds that you can do. So what do we need to be able to do? We need to be able to give you your great visual of the hero. That's the main thing, right? It's like, this is where you come and check out your hero and check out the goodies you picked up over the last bit of time. There's a number of things that you need to be able to do, like pin hero as your favorite. We don't need to, but we want you to be able to do this. You want to be able to lock a hero to make sure you don't end up feeding them bad, in a silly situation. You want to be able to see some ratings and stats about the hero, some lore. All of that should live in the roster screen. You also want to be able to understand how well they built, what are their archetypes, what sets have you got on them. All of these kind of like call-outs need to be available. They don't all necessarily need to be on this screen though. So we've been kind of like looking through some different suggestions here, or working through some suggestions as a group, and we want to make some changes. So,
I just want to say right now that this is a very good direction. There's already going to be a bunch of turds out there who are going to look at GODFORGE and say, this is just a clone of Raid Shadow Legends. So any minor things that you can do to make the game visually separated further from the aesthetic of Raid is going to be a very good thing. Having the bar at the top that says the champion's name is a very Raid Shadow Legends-esque aesthetic. So moving away from that, I think, is a very big positive. So big plus for me on this. I like this a lot.
we're working with Henry, who does a lot of our UI UX. Basically, we want to cut that kind of like header bar completely off. We want to change some of the information that we would see on the header bar over on the right hand side here, and we want to move some of the information away from this part of the screen. So again, you can sort of see subtle differences, but it just opens up a bit more space to be able to see your hero, your toy, your collectible, right? And there's just a bit more space now to be able to do that. And some of the other elements now live on other parts of the screen. So for example, on the one that we built out here, all of the set information, we're thinking, well, look, if you're going to be building your heroes, with the armor, we should put all of that in the armor screen, right?
I'm on the fence about that. I think it looks, I don't know. It is kind of extra clutter.
So, as you click into armor, this is where you're going to understand where your sets now will be, rather than on this main screen. Just gives us a little bit more space to be able to keep the main screen looking really.
I don't think that was bad, but I don't know.
Be clean.
I don't have strong feelings either way.
We then go into a sort of ability tab. This one's not changing too much. But yeah, as you can see here now in the sets screen or in the armor screen, all of the sets are here. If you've got things like attunement happened.
The one concern I would have is that if you have sets where you could have like a one-piece set bonus, similar to what Raid's doing with like their sets where you could have up to 9 pieces, you could, in theory, at some point have 9 sets. Not that you have 9 gear slots, but 6 gear slots. And this is like, I forget the terminology. If a piece is attuned or awakened or attuned and awakened. I don't know. My concern is that there wouldn't be a lot of room for growth with this setup. But I guess if I don't know. These are things that could be adjusted in the future, I guess. They could always rework this if they needed to.
That will be here as well. All of those different power-ups. So,
is that shoulder armor? That's neat.
Just keeping like the cleanest amount of information that we can for the players. And obviously you can sort of click through and engage with these screens. With the Awakening, again, all of this Awakening information is actually already on your portrait. So on your portrait, you can see your Awakening level, you can see your star count, you can see your hero level. And what we don't want to do is duplicate too much on every screen that we're showing. So in certain areas like here, obviously it's important to know your Awakening level, but we didn't feel like it was super important to know somewhere else over here an Awakening level, because you can already see it on screen. So things like that are what we're playing around with right now to try and make sure that the screens feel really, really clean. We're also
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
starting to get to the point now where we're building out the different campaign maps. You know, a lot of the stuff.
These look so good. I love the aesthetic of these.
Which has been in game so far that we've shown you has been placeholder. So if I go into battle, campaign, and into an actual faction, you know, all of these have been around, honestly, since we did the first demo, which is almost a year ago now. So they've just been sitting in here as placeholder so that, you know, we had a good idea of the sort of feel that we wanted for the game. But ultimately, you know, it's assets which we needed to update. So we're now looking at, you know, different world maps. Like the Eka map here is ready to be put into game. The Azumu map ready to go into game.
What I think would be really cool for this one in particular is you can see all these cherry blossom trees. I don't know if you've ever played Minecraft, but if you are in a cherry blossom biome in Minecraft, the cherry blossom petals like fall and flutter from the trees and kind of like blow in the wind. It would be a really cool aesthetic to like add to like bring the level to. Sorry, I just karate chopped the microphone to bring the level to life.
This one looks particularly sweet, by the way. What will happen once it goes in game is we'll actually have VFX just to bring the worlds to life. So, you know, there might be like, I don't know, now and then a little fish swimming in the water, the waves having like a ripple effect.
These waterfalls actually looking like they're moving would be really cool too. Like this one, even this one.
Maybe some just like mist moving across the maps. Just things to bring the maps to life, even though it is a 2D image. So there'll be some 3D assets on the piece here. This is the Amayakan map, which looks really freaking cool. Obviously,
it really
does.
Some
placeholder stuff in these visuals, which Henry's been doing. But yeah, just really starting to get to the point where we've got the quality level that we want to actually now go in game. And there's just these different kind of like mock-ups of these different elements.
That must be Olympus. Oh yeah, it says Olympus right there.
Refine and finish. But again, different sort of ways to work your way through these maps.
Man, these maps look so cool, man. Like I can't understate how nice that looks. Especially, and it not only does it look really nice, but it's such a far cry from a lot of the things that we've seen in the past. It's unique, original, and it looks really good.
So that we've got some really cool visuals and sort of stage info. Obviously, when you're actually playing the game, you know, it's kind of like, do people really pay much attention at that point?
Are they paying attention? Maybe not. Will they notice? Perhaps not as well. But it's these little touches that gives these players a subliminal feeling of just everything feels good. They might not know why it feels good. They might not know why it looks cool. They might not necessarily notice up front, but like there's going to be a point where they're 2 or 3 months into the game and then they notice it like, holy cow, I never noticed this. I can't believe they put that much effort into these campaign maps. And that's when it sets in like, man, they really like, even if they don't notice it on day one, on their first playthrough, like eventually they'll see it and it'll set in rather than just feeling good. It'll occur to them that why it feels so good. I don't know. I definitely think all this effort is worth it. It's really going to set you apart from the competition. Like people see this stuff and they appreciate it. Like when I played Eternal Evolution, their map, like I remember looking at it and thinking it just looked cheap, and it kind of made the game feel cheap to me. And I don't want to say that's why I quit playing the game, but it because it lacked these like wow factor moments. I never really got hooked on it, I guess. And what you're building here and this direction that you're going in, it's gonna have those wow factor moments.
But I think you've got to have. I think people pay attention if they're not good, right? So it's one of those things where they just have to be clean and slick.
It's literally what I just said. When it looks like trash, people notice. And when it's good, if you do it perfect, they won't even notice the tiny details you put in. They'll just see that it looks right. And it's so much better for them to see that it looks right than for them to see that it looks bad. Like, it, hands down, people notice when things are bad.
The other things which has been needing an overhaul is our battle UI. So there's a few things going on here. First,
it's kind of interesting because I don't mind the health bar and the turn meter looking this way, but the way that they had the divinity meter displayed and it's just a square box that fills up, that kind of bothered me. I didn't like the aesthetic of that.
Some of the icons, the HP bars, all that type of stuff, the visual quality does not match the quality of the assets we've got on display. So being able to update those has been really important to us. Obviously, we don't have all of our ability icons and stuff in yet.
So like this, I'm in the way. I went the wrong way. So this little bar right here is what I was talking about, like how it fills up from the bottom to the top, and then it shows his affinity icon on top of the divinity meter. I was not a fan of that aesthetic.
Might not even have all of those done for alpha, although we will try to. But yeah, some of these different things needed to change. So again, Henry has been hard at work with honestly me and some of the design team, and we've just been playtesting different things. You can see here, this is kind of how the Figma representation of some of this stuff works. So we have a number of different sort of ideas that are thrown together. We're evaluating different concepts, different ways to visualize the same information.
I'm gonna say right now, I do think displaying the affinity is something that should be done in some form or another, but I don't like it on top right here. That makes it look like a big pimple about to burst on the forehead of the divinity meter.
Because ultimately, and this is actually a really cool way of looking at this. So, yeah, we had all these different things that we wanted to be able to show: an HP bar, a turn meter bar, an ultimate meter that's filling up.
I do like with how it sort of starts bright at the top and sort of fades to black, and then how it's yellow and it fades to orange, like the gradients that they put in here. That looks so much cleaner.
An affinity icon, whether someone's got an ultimate or not. Like, so these are things that we need to show. And Henry basically pulled together a lot of different visuals for how this could look. And then we're questioning, do we need an affinity icon? Is that even something we need to show? Do we need this kind of like filling alt meter? Do we want it as a bar instead of a...
I feel like there was one where it showed it on the bottom and I liked that better, but I don't see it now.
You know, all of these questions that we try and answer. And we kind of have quite a lot of round table discussions about this. You know, if you look at the original here, we had, do we want...
Yeah, these little meters filling up like that did not look good, in my opinion.
These like longer portraits. There's all sorts of things that we...
No, not the longer portraits.
can play around with to try and like visualize our UI for battle. But battle's really important.
Like these small, tiny portraits look so much better than the long portraits that you showed on the other one.
Important because in our game, it is a tactical fighter, right? There is a certain amount of strategy that we need to be able to deploy when we are battling. I've lost my actual one that I'm looking for here. It's over this side, that's why. Yeah, there's a number of things that we need to be able to show. We also need to be able to show things like abilities going off, debuffs going off, buffs going off, whether a hit is strong, weak, normal.
That's one thing that Raid Shadow Legends does really well, is it's like if you're looking at it and you're paying attention to what's going on, it's pretty easy to tell like what's happening. Like, oh, they were damaged this many times for this amount, and that was the poison damage at the start of the turn, and now this person attacks and it's a crit, and you could tell it's a crit. Another thing that they do that's really cool, and I know this will be a ton of extra work, but when a character in Raid doesn't crit, sometimes they have a different attack animation than when they do crit. So when they're about to crit, they have a special, like, more badass attack animation. It's kind of neat. That's something that I would venture to guess that most people don't even notice, but it's something that I've noticed since the beginning, and I always thought it was really cool that they thought to do that.
Or a crit, like there's a whole bunch of things that visually on the screen the players need to understand. This is especially important for mechanics going off and for arena. So if you're in the arena, you want to know exactly what's going on. So there's some of the things that we have to get across. There's certain things on the screen that we want to make sure that we're showing in terms of information. So, we want to be able to see who's next in turn.
Oh, that's interesting. So in this image, they've removed the turn meter from the health bar and put it on the turn order indicator. And then where the turn meter was is now the divinity meter. That's kind of interesting. I don't mind that, actually. I would like to be able to distinguish what the turn meter is while only looking in one place. I don't want to have to look, okay, well, this guy's got his ult. Well, where's he at in this turn? I want to have all the information immediately. So for me personally, I don't think I like the turn meters over here. I would prefer them displayed above the character so I could just instantly look and know without having to okay, well, is it this Musashi? Is it this Musashi? Is it this one? Just take all the guesswork out. But it's interesting that they're toying around with that. But I think I prefer the turn meters above the characters with the health bar.
Order, but you can turn that off if you don't want to know about that. We want to be able to see if an ult is ready to go. We want to be able to change things like the speed of battle. We want to put auto on. We want to be able to see a damage meter. When we
oh, the info button actually has info on it.
Have info up. We want to see the key information and be able to access that really easily. We want to understand some more stuff about our team or the enemy team whilst we're in battle if something doesn't feel quite right.
That is really cool. I love that. One of my biggest pet peeves with Raid is that their info button doesn't really have hardly any info. It'll show you the buffs and debuffs, but it doesn't show you the HP percentage. It doesn't show you the exact turn meter percentage. It doesn't, because if an enemy has a 5% poison on them and they're at 5.5% health, they're not going to die to that poison. And I would like to be able to know that. So I know that when my character gets a turn, do I need to attack the person who's not going to die to the poison? But if they're at 4.9% HP and they have the 5% poison, they will die, which lets me know that I can attack a different character. I don't have to worry about this one because they're dead. The fact that it never shows me that info is frustrating. And it took them 5 years to put a list of buffs and debuffs and explanation for what they do under the info screen. That was so stupid. Sorry, tangent, but it's that's the kind of stuff that should have been in the game at launch. Let people know what buffs and debuffs do. Call me crazy. I don't know.
So we're just trying to evaluate exactly what a player needs to see and what's kind of, I guess, almost annoying to see. Anyway, after all of that assessment and refinement, we've then landed on a new visual. So firstly, we've tried to, I guess, modernize or bring the quality level up of some of the visuals on.
So this divinity meter getting full and then the ring around it glowing bright, I think that's really cool. It's super obvious. And I definitely prefer the affinity indicator on the bottom part rather than the top.
On display. So things like the turn meter bars with, I guess, just a bit more gradient to them, just a bit more modernized.
It looks a lot cleaner with the gradient on there. Yeah. It's such a small thing that adds a huge amount of polish. And also the glare on the divinity meter makes it look like it's a globe rather than just a circle. So it adds it almost looks like a crystal ball filling up. That's really cool.
Things like the ult meter having a bit more quality to it.
Oh, I didn't even notice the border. Yeah, that is such a nice touch. You know what would be I was trying to click and drag and so I could slide it over. It'd be cool if, now again, maybe this is too much, but when it's full rather than the whole ring glowing, if just the filigree lights up, almost like enchanted runes or something, that would be sick.
And again, visually more of a gradient. Things like the affinity.
Like this, if rather than the whole circle lit up, if it was just like the runes or the filigree that were like lighting up blue. Obviously keep the glow. That's I think that's important. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's not obvious enough. This makes it extremely clear and obvious what's happening. So maybe this is cool. I'm just spitballing here.
Just being, I guess, still very clear to see, but in my opinion, not feeling as cheap visually. Yeah, that's the main thing. So lots of different elements we're trying to get across, and make sure that we showcase. We've then got something else which we had as a testing problem. So if more than one person had an ultimate and I clicked on that ultimate, basically what I'm doing is I'm moving to their turn. But if I want to switch back to my original hero whose turn it was, so in this instance here, you can see it's Hercules' turn, but Odin has got his ult available. So now when you click on Odin, instead of having this kind of like fiery blue color to say that it's ready, we're actually going to switch it to say, now you've clicked on me and I'm going to do my thing next unless you click somewhere else. So we're just trying to make sure that the user experience is really clear about what you're about to do. So all of these refinements are going off right now. They're going to be...
That's something where I don't know how I feel about it, and I wouldn't know how I felt about it until I actually played with it. I'm sure it's fine. But yeah, I don't know. Like because I've never played the game, I don't know how it feels and how intuitive it is to know who you have selected and whose ultimate you're about to use, I guess. So I'm assuming that they had some issues with that with internal testing, and that's why they made a change. And if that's the case, then obviously do it. But again, I've never played the game, so I don't know what it feels like to play.
Implemented for the alpha so that we can start to get some feedback from the players that are playtesting the alpha. But I'd love to know what you think in terms of some of those changes that I've showed you there. Do you feel like this is moving in the right visual direction for you compared to what we've got in game right now? Let's just get a slap away.
Lock core ability. That's interesting.
Yeah, in terms of what we've got in game right now, this is the direction that we're looking to move into. The other thing, which is
when you see the before and the after, it's like such a clear W, like the direction they're moving in.
Being built right now, it won't be in for the alpha, but it's things that we're working out, is Pantheons. So the ability to join a Pantheon, what do we want to be able to show? How do we want to represent this type of feel in game? And what do we want for you to be able to control in game? So there's a whole bunch of screens.
Man, Saphir just keeps pulling copies of Zeus, man.
Now that are being built for that. And Henry's walking through those things. Some elements which are, again, should just feel very comfortable to you. And some elements which will be cool and different for our game. Like all things we're doing really in GODFORGE. So yeah, lots of exciting streams coming through. Let me know what you think. Are we moving it in the right direction for you visually?
Absolutely.
Do you feel like from what I'm showing you here?
So while I was editing this footage, I noticed something interesting. What are all these screens? I don't think he intended to show these to us, so I decided to go back to the video and have a closer look. And what I could see here is choosing starter. Choosing starter. That looks like Lady Zoc. This looks like Ramses. This looks like Guan Yu. I think it's officially confirmed that those are our starters. In fact, I made a whole video about that. I'll put a link to it at the end of this video. But there's more exciting stuff in here that I don't think he meant to show. Behind his head, it says summon area idle, and it looks like there's a summoning stone being summoned behind him, and gold with like blue lightning coming in at it. This looks like the weapon area. This looks like a weapon forge. There's some really cool. Oh my gosh. Okay, so every screen that we've seen so far of the I forget what they call it, the sanctum. It says right here, sanctum. There's been like a blue tint, a bluish green tint, but in this one it's red. That's kind of interesting. I wonder if it changes colors, or if you can choose which color. See, in here, this one is orange. How interesting. Anyway, sorry. I just wanted to throw that out to you guys since I noticed it while I was editing. Let's get back to the video.
You know, some of the changes are making more sense for you as a player. And
the only one I'm on the fence about is whether it's necessarily necessary to move the set icons off the main page. Sometimes it would be nice to know at a quick glance and not have to, you know, go to the gear tab just to see, but who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It didn't seem like it was causing that much clutter on the main screen.
And I guess if there's any screens that you're seeing that don't feel quite right, firstly, they're probably not finished, but do let us know. Anyway, I've been Simon from Fateless, and I'll see you soon.
See you, Simon. Anyway, that's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully, I will see you all in another video soon. But until next time, everybody, take care.